Not yet.
No, like the spies.
But he'll show up.
No, like the spies.
But he'll show up.
They were lied about how
Thanks for that
much she was rewarded. The women in Israel.
Somebody's there, I'm assuming it's
in
Stephen.
captivity who sold the Pharaoh that they were killing all the Jew babies.
Can you ask him?
And they're in Hebrews in the 8th chapter. So
It's a 954 phone number, so I'm pretty sure it's him. Is that you,
Bearing
Stephen?
false witness against someone that's actually a Ten Commandments. Meaning like, I testify you did something you really didn't.
We have a lot of.
Pushing them up.
I don't know.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order. This is the continuance of the first budget hearing for the City of Wilson, Florida. This Thursday, August the 18th. It is 5:30 something, 5:35. And I'll ask Ms. Wright to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman,
I am here.
President Jones,
Here.
Vice President Robinson,
Here.
Councilmember Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Cox,
Here.
Councilmember Ross,
Yes.
City Manager Jackie Gorman, absent. Deputy City Manager Dina Nelson, absent. Finance Director Stephen Bloom, I believe he's online. City Clerk Patricia Wright, here. Attorney Kirsten Ballou is absent, and all other staff.
Here.
Present.
Thank you all for being gluttons for punishment and being here again tonight. I think this is our third night in a row. So you're all dedicated, or you wouldn't be here, and we appreciate it. And I'm talking up here and out there. We appreciate you being here and keeping us all straight in order. I will stand at this time for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Mayor.
Lord, we thank you first of all for the rain. It's inconvenient to us, but necessary for life, and we give you thanks that we are getting it as other parts of the country are begging for it. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to once again gather together to try to do the business of the city. We ask for your guidance and your will in all that we say and do. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bloom has joined us online.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, at this time, we are on item 2, and we are starting with, we're supposed to begin with Public Works. I would like to ask Mr. Bloom if he would like to add anything before we start.
Hang on just a second, Stephen. Gotta make a switch.
Hopefully we don't have technical difficulties because of the wind.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Try it again.
Yes, good evening. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Did want to start off by apologizing for not being there tonight. I am officially in quarantine now, feeling okay, but kind of prevented me from doing any traveling. I did want to just kind of touch on and remind everyone, I did listen to the prior workshop and took really good notes from all the discussions that were had. And once you decide on your next workshop, I know tonight you've got a couple more presentations. The next kind of point of business will be to provide you with a new version of the budget and supplemental schedules, which would then be used to kind of make your, I'll call them final, but your next round of discussions on some of these additional budget items that we've been kind of talking through both in the last meeting and in this one. So that is forthcoming after tonight. So there will be a new version for you to look at that has all of the dollar amounts that have been discussed. But tonight is obviously about kind of public works and a couple of the other departments to give them their opportunity in front of the council to present their requests, and obviously to take your questions and then to go from there. And I'll certainly be here to also help answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We're glad you could join us tonight, and we're glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
I guess we will start, unless anybody has an issue. We'll start with Public Works, right where we left off.
Stephen, nobody else is here, so I'll just leave you connected. You can speak up whenever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Yeah, have to eat it.
Yes, ma'am. That'll
You
work.
see me leaning into it, you gotta do that.
I'll just leave that one alone. Good evening. I would like to start by saying that my team and I had the privilege of taking over 15 months ago. We had to analyze the utility department and see it where it was as a whole. 2 months later, we had our first budget. We asked for the employees. We asked for more employees so we could better handle the needs of the citizens. To us, allow it, and you allowed us, the staff, to requested. Because of you, we have been able to complete the maintenance, including painting of the buildings and lift stations, trim the trees around the power line, maintain better parks, and start an electric fleet, and maintain the roads at a higher standard. During the most recent power flickers and outages, we have been able to quickly respond, which helps you save money and overtime and supplies. So as you hear about our budget tonight, please think about where we started and where we can be and where we will be next year. And thank you for the assistance in giving us the opportunity to give the utilities that the citizens deserve. At this point, I would like to open the floor for any further questions.
Okay, so I guess we will, if you'll turn to your, let's see, what's the name of that tab? If you'll go to your budgeting by fund, budget by fund tab, and go until you find, no, is that right yet? Hold on.
52.
And go to your find, 52, thank you, go to your find the utility department, which they're telling me is 52, that is correct. All right, is there, as we walk fund by fund, or area by area, you see the revenues and expenses for each area. And the first across the top of the page 52, you see each of the individual utilities. And that's just a summary. And if you go all the way to the bottom of that page, you'll see the transfer to general fund that has to do with administrative expenses. We'll look at that on page 54, which gives you the breakdown of what those numbers are. That's a lot of money. It's a big increase, and we may can get Mr. Bloom to help us understand that. I'm sure it came out of somewhere else and got moved to this area. And he may, what I'm talking about is the transfer to general fund that's shared costs for administrative expenses, which is the next to the last line on page 52. If you go to page 54, there is a transfer to general fund shared cost that shows you who those employees are.
So just to touch on that a little bit, and this is kind of a conceptual change from some of our prior budgets. In the past, shared costs, and by that I mean city manager, HR, purchasing, and IT, were showing up in different places within the budget. And while that was not a bad thing, it made it very difficult for council to get their hands wrapped around the total cost for those particular departments. So after some additional discussion internally, the decision was made to put all of those costs in one spot in the general fund and then allocate them across the other funds so that you could see both the total and then where it gets split and who pays for it. So I'll start with the city manager role just for the sake of this discussion. So the city manager has a department within the general fund where all of that particular cost goes to. All the budget and then all the actuals all go there. So anybody can look at that department and say, well, what does that particular function cost for the entire city? But for the city manager role, obviously the city manager is supporting the different funds. So those funds have to share in that cost somehow, because the general fund could not maintain 100% of those costs. And that's just one department, again, I'm mentioning that for. It's for several departments now.
Okay, so it was taken out of one area and put all together in this area so that we could see it better.
Correct. It's for basically to try and be more transparent, not only for the council and for the public, but also for those managers, so they're not having to go into 6 different places, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but to go into several different places in order to see where all their cost was. In particular, this started because as we were starting, IT, there was telephones everywhere, there was software, all kinds of places, and wasn't a bad thing, but for Aaron then to be able to figure out, well, what do I really have as a budget? He had to go to 10 different pages, and now he just has to go to one, and it'll show him, here's my entire budget. But if you are, Jonathan, if you are Benton, you are sharing in that cost for IT, and you see within your department a line that says shared cost, but then Aaron only has to worry about one spot.
And this isn't all salaries. This number includes what?
This number would include everything: salaries, benefits, operational costs, if that includes travel. For example, for Aaron, it would include software, telephone, cell phone, computer stuff. It's an all-encompassing way of looking at those particular departments. So it's just kind of gives them, from a reporting perspective, a more top-level overview of where everything's going.
Okay, and the reason I'm pointing this out, of course, is because the budget from last year shows $61,232. This year it shows $287,847, which is a 370% increase. And I'm just trying to explain to everyone that that's really not a 370% increase. It's that it's all brought together into one location, and it was therefore deducted from another location to bring it to this location.
So for each of these departments, and it starts on page 70 of the file you're looking at, you can see the total for each of the departments, as well as how it's allocated across the funds. So city manager is the first one, and just for the sake of this particular version, it's about 119,000, and you can see it's personnel services and operating. And then within it, you can see exactly how it was allocated percentage-wise and where it was allocated across to the 3 funds. And you can see that through each of these kind of shared services departments. City clerk, which I hadn't mentioned, human resources was in there, purchasing is in here in this version, and then IT. And those are kind of the 4 pieces that when you add up each of those columns, for example, for the utility fund, that's what equals that total number. And then this allows them to be able to see the personnel that's in there, all the individual costs. And then for those managers next year, like I said, they've only got one department that they're going to have to worry about and be able to manage their costs accordingly.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay, if we go back again to 53. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I'm going back to the beginning. Again, in the budget, I'm looking at 53 because there's capital outlay there. That's showing the vehicles that were requested. You see one for administration. I believe that's a pickup truck, if I remember right.
That's correct.
And the other vehicle for the electric is the smaller bucket truck. It has a strange name. It's not Squirt, but what is it? Is it Squirt?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am,
it's a Squirt truck. And that's the smaller of the bucket trucks that we have.
Yes, ma'am. It's the white one you see riding around.
One cart. We'll place the one cart driving.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I know that we've talked about those in capital as we discussed that at our last meeting, but I want to mention it here because we need to say that it needs to stay here if that's what we want it to be. As we move again on 54, we're back to where all the dollars were. And again, on 55, you see the capital outlay for those particular, for that truck, for the pickup truck is there. Does anybody else have any specific questions about the utility fund budget? I think they've done a really good job of laying it all out. And I think it's pretty lean.
Council President, we do have, for each department, we do have some
A presentation for each one? All right.
Right.
That's good.
And we'll start with Mike Miller, Supervisor Electric.
Mr. Miller, if you'd like to be first, you can make your way to the podium. Or you can use the mic that's on the desk, whichever you prefer. Yeah, 287,847. That one transfer is that. There are other transfers too. That particular one is that one area, the administration of the utility fund.
I was wondering what the total transfer is going to be.
We're not there yet. We'll get there. It'll be on here sooner or later. You got the floor, Mr. Miller. Tell us what we need to know. And we are on the electric, which begins on page 57 of your packet.
We wanted to point out a couple of things. One was, if you look at the materials and supplies, I believe they are on the bottom of page 57.
Yes, sir.
Last year we had a large increase in materials and supplies, and that increase has been reduced this year, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because we took a lot of the money and we invested it in supplies that I believe was referenced just the other night, safety supplies, so that our our electric supervisor wasn't actually bringing in personal equipment to maintain safety for the crew. The other caveat to that is we realized this year we needed to remove part of that money from materials and supplies and needed to actually start a byline with Stephen's help called compliance. And if you look on the second page, you'll notice a compliance program with $60,000. And so if you take the difference, we actually added about $20,000, and I'm going to explain as to why we did that. Last year, we didn't expect some of the supply issues that obviously have occurred industry-wide everywhere, from any kind of business, any kind of part, doesn't matter if it's plumbing, doesn't matter if it's electric, it really doesn't matter if it's a building supply, it's all universal. So what happened is Stephen's required to close out the budget at certain times, and things that were ordered on last year's budget didn't get received until March, and sometimes even up to April this year. And he had already closed out the budget. And so what he had to do was he actually had to use some of those materials and supplies that were supposed to be put on last year's budget onto this year's budget. So we were shorted almost $30,000 because of supplies coming in so late that we needed to pick up on those safety supplies that we're going to continue on this year. So we hope next year that will actually go down, but we needed to catch up from that. So that's that $20,000 difference. If you add the 60 and the 55 retained in materials and supplies, it's about $20,000 more than what we requested last year. So that's one of the main differences in the electric. As we mentioned about the squirt truck, the council, if they could put it in the budget and get us a letter of intent, it's almost going to take us 2 years to get delivery of that truck if we order it right now. And the company does not require us to put any money down, but it has to be in a budget. We have to sign an agreement. And even in the 2 years, it doesn't have to be paid for. We can do payments, we could do a loan, whatever council's desire is with, obviously Stephen's recommendations. But 90 days after we receive the truck, we're required to have some sort of plan as to what we'd want to do. But we're talking, like I said, 18 to 24 months down the road. The quotes that we're receiving, they're good for 30 days. So every month we delay this, it gets more and more expensive, and the time period for that truck. The average lifespan of a squirt truck at the best is around 10 years. Ours is going on, is it 16? We're on our 15th year. Next year will be our 16th. So we've really tried to make sure the trucks last a good long while. But it's our main truck for pretty much a lot of what electric does in regards to a quick response. All of the flags that are put up on the street for all the holidays and all the events, that's utilized because it's a truck that allows you to be able to use and utilize the bucket without having to have stabilizers down. And so it's a very important truck, and when we lose that, it just massively increases how much time and energy we need on a particular outage or a particular job. So those are the trucks. Also, I wanted to point out that the other truck that we have mentioned in administrative is actually for our electric supervisor, who for the last 15 months has been driving around his own vehicle and hasn't been turning in receipts for gas. He's been driving his own vehicle day to day from job site to job site because we just don't have any vehicles available other than what the crew has to have in the field. So that's one of the main reasons why we put that in there. And furthermore, we've got to start at some point, a little bit at a time, replacing the fleet. If it's one or two every couple of years, but we have to start. The average truck in our fleet right now is a 2014. So even though the mileage is low on these trucks, they get a lot of abuse, as you can imagine, with some of the type of work that our departments do. And so that's a little bit of the changes on the electric. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it specifically about electric at the time.
Anything to add, Mr. North? No. Mr. Bloom, do you have anything to add on electric?
Your mic's off, Gilbert, I think.
No, I do not.
It says it's on.
That's it, may have it down.
Okay, thank you. I'm turning it off and back on again. Make it work better. Testing.
Yes.
Yes.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Donald, if we ordered that truck today, and let's say it's 2-year turnaround time, let's say 8 months down the road, price of parts and things drop, and the price of that truck drop, would we be able to take advantage of the lower price?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, it's already built into discussions. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on electric before we move to the next department? Mr. Bullock?
So on the flip side, if the price goes up though, it still costs us, or can we lock in on some sort of deal?
It's locked in, it'll stay the same. But if the cost goes down, I've got a verbal with a contingency. He will send us a written contract saying if it goes down, it'll go down also.
And I understand you don't even need a PO, you just need
a letter of intent.
letter of intent.
And there's 4 different ways that we can pay for it once we even get to that point. But after receiving the truck, we have 90 days to make our mind up how we want to pay for it.
Okay. Ms. Robinson? No? Oh, okay. All right. Mr. Bloom says he's done, so we're ready to turn the page?
One last thing on electric. We initially had, before staff got together and we needed to make sure that certain departments were taken care of this year, we had a line item in there that we want to prepare you guys for next year, and that is a line item for another lineman. With all the growth that we're doing, everyone has to remember that as you add 98 homes on one section of town, we've got plats coming in for townhomes, 55. We've got 42 at Laurel Point possibly. Laura can, of course, go over more of these numbers, but we have a lot of potential growth. And as you add meters into the system, it's going to be imperative that we have another lineman. And one of the issues that we're having is when we upped the pay for linemen this previous year, we did not receive one application for anyone that was an A lineman. They wouldn't even consider us at the pay increase that we did, and that was topped out at $37 an hour. So we've gotten with FMPA, FMEA, other providers, we've done comparison studies, and what we're coming up with is a $45 to $55 an hour wage for an A lineman. And so we didn't want to put that in this year. We haven't really obviously fixed the revenue side of things, so we're not, but basically what it comes to is $114,000 a year plus benefits. Stephen could tell you what those are. I think total it's closer to about 135 to 140 when it's all said and done. But that's the cost of having a qualified lineman in. And as Mike's taken administrative duties, he has a lot more administrative tasks to do. And so he was gracious to go salary. I think he's regretting that now, but he went salary, and there's just not enough of him to go around as he trains the gentleman in the field. And we, by the way, have another lineman B that's been promoted, who was an apprentice last year. We have a groundman that was has gotten classes and has been promoted to an apprentice position. So we are building up that program. It's just that you're talking about a 4 or 5 year investment, and we're going to probably lose those guys if the pay isn't up and there's not an incentive once they get there to stay there. So we just wanted to prepare y'all for that so that it's not the first time you hear it next year. So.
And with that being said, at the $45 an hour rate, you do get a Class A lineman, but you don't get an experienced Class A lineman.
Right.
So there's that to think about also.
All right, so same question like I did for the police. What's our cost in training, and how many people on average are we losing every time we train somebody, compared to $10 an hour more to just get somebody that we need?
I would tell you the concept's the same, but I don't have the numbers at this time.
I know we did have one that was good that left within months. Actually lived in the area.
Yeah, but we couldn't compete with a $19 an hour raise.
Yeah, you gotta know.
And the non-competes or the contracts don't work either, because GRU, Newberry, they'll literally just pay off the contract without a thought. So it doesn't help us to have those in place either.
We had that in place with a young man, I won't mention his name, but GRU paid him a bonus plus his back pay for the contract, and he still got a $13 an hour raise.
Yeah.
How long does it take to train a line A?
4.5 years.
4.5 years.
Well, I mean, to me, it's.
That's why they get so much
I don't
money.
wanna cost lots of money, but if it costs us more to train than it does to raise somebody $10 an hour and get the type of person we want in here to lock them down, to me, it's almost worth an experiment, like with the police department that we're doing, to see if we can't get competitive and get somebody that wants to be at home working.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's all for electric. At this time, if you guys want to go back a page, we can talk about customer billing, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Helena Levy.
Okay, for page 56.
Hello.
Close, Lena.
Alright. I'm not really good at this, so y'all bear with me.
I know you're great. Go ahead.
Since I took over customer service in October, we've been striving to make things better for the city and our citizens. We've updated our service agreement to have more information for the customers, and I've put in place better procedures for the ease of customer service. We have a wonderful team in place now in customer service, and we hope to grow. Obviously, I'm in search for another one if y'all know anybody. I'm currently doing the utility billing. I coordinate the meter reading and rechecks on that for proper billing for our customers. I'm processing all the work orders for Public Works, keeping reports up to date for the guys to make sure we're not, behind. Everything's getting done in a timely manner. I supervise the customer service. I also do the accounts receivable and oversee that side of things, and including helping with the airport's receivables with Kelly. And then I help out, the Public Works, with anything that they need, including their reporting for the year and things like that. I'm also helping IT with getting CalLink, the billing and stuff set up so we can hopefully get that rolling. I'll also be, managing that billing once it rolls out. The new budget that we're looking at will implement a full-time accounts payable position. It's something our finance director has strongly encouraged to bring the city back to normal financial operations. My job duties are expanding to a second division. I will ultimately be responsible for communication with our financial director, Stephen Bloom, and his team, and overseeing the accounts payable side of things as well. With the removal of the cost of the in-house finance person that we had and the accounts payable portion of Infomark's contract, and then adding that AP position full-time in-house and an advance in my pay to oversee this, it will be pretty much a neutral, cost. So as you see in the budget, that I didn't really increase much. The only thing that really increased on mine was postage, and that is because postage has gone up. And we have more bills that will, like he said, with the growth that's coming into town, we'll have more bills going out. So that was really the only thing I have.
Ms.
Do you have
Lee,
any questions?
question. When I stopped by and visited with you the other day, you were talking about new software.
Yes.
So we have that in the budget?
Yes, it is. Donald can show you better where that is, but we have looked at.
Is it under IT? It's under the IT budget, I believe. The capital, I'm looking at the
It
capital.
might be in the
That's where it
capital,
sits.
under capital, I think.
I mean, let's discuss it under yours because it affects your department as well
It
as about
does. It
4 others.
affects a lot what I do. It's called Edmunds GovTech. We've done a few demos with them. It is an amazing software. And so currently what we're using now, it doesn't, the software doesn't really speak between our different departments. So permitting is on its own little thing, code enforcement's on its own little thing, and the utilities is on its own little thing. So when I open a new utility account and they have some permitting issue, I don't know about it right away. So with the new software, everything is in one place as far as the location. So that is one great feature. Another thing with work orders, our work orders can go out mobile on like a tablet or a device to our team out in the field, that when they go out to the work order, they can put in their notes, they can snap photos, it all goes into that software, and it all would just, be there, so, for reference back to, and to, cover everybody. It has a finance side of things, so all of the billing, any, receivables, any payables, everything is coming through the same portal there within the software.
And I understand permitting comes through that same.
Permitting as well, yes ma'am.
It all ties to the property.
Yeah, and there's an inventory, there's permitting, the billing, the work orders, there's the finance side, which would be your payables and receivables. It has a payroll and an HR module as well. I can't think of anything else. There's a lot of little things, but those are like the big,
The online
portions of it.
Online access for the permits.
Yes, and
the
that
applications.
is one of the wonderful things. It has a wonderful online portal for our customers. They can log on, they can see their bill, they can see their usage. It's way cleaner than what we have right now. And not until we have AMI. And I know that's something that they'll talk about, but we would love to have all of our meters gone AMI to where that meter is feeding the information here.
Right.
If that ever does happen, hopefully it will, or when it happens, I should say, right? It would be real time at that point. Then a customer could log on and say, oh, what's my usage going to be this month? Where am I at? Well, I need to back down on this, or what have you. It would also open up a portal for our permitting. Right now, we have nothing online to where a business can log on and do a building permit online and pay for it online. So it would definitely help also with our contractors in the city as well. It just would streamline everything and get everything nice and clean.
Right. And I do think this falls under the IT budget, but I've heard from multiple, as you're saying, multiple department heads, that it will have a major impact on their department.
Yes.
I've heard it from you, I've heard it from Laura, I've heard it from
Yeah,
Aaron,
I mean,
I've heard it from everybody.
it would save a lot of time as well, because with the software we have now, it's almost like you have to almost triple do things to get it to where it needs to be. Where with this new software, it just works much smoother to where you're pushing a button and it's going where it needs to go.
Okay, so, Stephen, do you have anything to add from the customer service billing area?
Steven, you're up. Are you there?
I might have made him fall asleep.
He's calling.
Maybe you got dropped.
No, he's still there.
You still there? Okay. He must not have any questions then, or anything to add. Anybody have any other questions for Selena? We'll go back to that subject.
I do. What's the monthly fee on the software?
So if you look on your sheets, you have your 1 year investment, and you have a total, and it's broken down. And then if you look on page 2, it again talks about annual fees.
Okay.
And so where you see the one-time fee, that's setup cost. There's about a 8-month process for implementation. And then after the implementation is done for each department, and of course they would start with billing first. Then what would happen is they would probably focus on permitting and code as a priority after that. And then, as I said, you see your annual fees there, and that's basically what modules we have. So HR is not listed in here because I know that there was a proposal to do a separate program for ADP. That's, of course, up to the will of the council. But they do offer that if that's something, and it's at much less cost. It doesn't do as much as ADP by far, but it is at a much lower cost. So we can get that updated if that's council's desire. But we just wanted to show you this as, there's cost savings as well, and that's the thing that's not talked about. Yes, this is an expense, but when you're talking about reducing the workload and allowing field personnel to have a better reaction time and the customers to have to go through less steps, it's something as simple as going onto your account and a customer being able to say, I'm reporting a work order that I think needs to be done or something I think needs to be looked at. They don't have to filter the right person, and then at 10 and 2, our techs come in and say, oh, let's see if we can fit that into our already predetermined schedule. It's more instant because we can shoot that right to the field because it's going to go to the person responsible for that department, and there can be actual time reaction. Same thing as the other day, the police department was so helpful in sending us information about a manhole that was about, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 inches above grade. And sent us a photo, and we were able to, within a short amount of time after they broke their car, to protect the citizens so that at least it was their car or the city's car and not a citizen's car. So, a citizen would be able to see something like that, and as Chief famously says, see something, say something. They actually be able to do something about it and have a work order generated. So there's a lot of cost savings involved in that, whether it's an insurance claim, whether it's more water leaving our system, whether it's sewage spills, all those kinds of things. And that's the part that obviously can't be calculable as far as the numbers.
Can't seem to get you to answer.
Can I get my $2,300 back?
Not
in the budget. Yeah.
What did it break?
A lot. A lot.
Oh, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's come.
Mr. Dollar and John, there's a lot of other cities using this type of program. So it would bring us from yesteryear up to...
It'd bring us a whole lot closer, yes, sir.
Did you get Mr. Glenn?
To name some of the municipalities in particular, Archer is in the process of the implementation with this company. Bushnell has already this program. Wildwood has this program. Bronson is in talks with Edmunds.gov for this program. We don't want to be behind Bronson. So that's just a suggestion.
Mr. Cox, we've looked into all of these different softwares as a committee for the past 18 to 20 months. So we didn't make the decision on this particular one very easily. We've talked to about 7 or 8 different software companies that have this type of equipment for cities about our size. And this is one we found was the most all-around for everybody, would replace ADG the best, and would also have the least expenses.
I agree with you, because when Selena explained it to me the other day, went through it, I was all for it. Every month I got to listen to my wife going, why can't the city get it to where we can pay our bill online?
Yes,
why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And also hear another customer say the same thing, when pretty much everything that we do today, we do online and pay online.
Yes, sir. We
Except
can't
here
even
in
submit
Wilson.
permits online. We have to do it via email, which we we will do, but we still have to get a hard copy from them. This will fix almost all of those issues.
Good, I get off my back then.
And with that being said, we've actually contacted other cities that already have this program, and every one of them unilaterally are in love with it.
Okay, so unless we have something else to add in the customer service billing area. I see Bessie reaching for a microphone, I'm not really sure why.
Just to back them up a little bit, right now with the current system that's at work, I have to bring in a part-timer at the end of the month, and Kelly has to dedicate about 2.5 days to doing billing manually through ADG just to send it out. And from what I understand with this new software, we can cut that time to just about half. So there would almost be no need for me to bring an additional part-timer in, and she can get it all done in one day.
Yeah. And she wouldn't have to come to City Hall so much also.
Right.
The other thing on Benton's comment, you're so funny. The other thing on Benton's comment, right now, like our airport customers that are paying their leases and stuff, they cannot pay online. So it would give them another option to pay online.
Would they have the ability to set it up for auto pay?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that would be great.
Currently they don't.
Yeah, they don't
currently,
now, but that would be
currently they
wonderful.
don't. But yes, and Benton and I have talked about that,
Yeah.
trying to get something set up a little bit more smooth with ACHs or something like that. But
We pay a lot
this
of
new
attention.
program would definitely do it.
Okay, so since this does sit in the IT area, let's move on until we get to IT. What I want is Mr. Bloom online.
We're trying.
Because
says
he needs to
can't
tell us where the
connect.
money's coming from. That's why we can't move on it at the moment.
He's trying to. He said. It
We need
says
to know
he's
if we
here.
have the money.
He's here. We got
Oh,
him.
he's there?
I'm here.
Oh, you are there. You're back. I knew I heard a ding come back in, so I was hoping that was you. Did you hear our discussion about the Edmonds GovTech software program?
Yeah, yes, I did, and just to kind of reiterate, because I did miss a little piece of it in terms of the cost. So, for everyone, just to kind of make sure the perspective is there, the year one investment would be about $117,000. Of that amount, $57,000 would be one-time cost. So after the first year, you'd be looking at about $60,000 and change. Again, that might change, depending upon what you do with HR or payroll. But some of this one-time upfront cost would go away. And then the only other piece that I would kind of mention as just kind of throwing it out there, not requiring it or absolutely not saying it's the only answer. You certainly could consider using ARPA funds or maybe a different type of grant to cover some of the at least the one-time cost would be another avenue to look at.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
I have a question for Mr. Bloom.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Bloom, if we were to bring back impact fees, this would help alleviate a lot of our issues, yes?
You certainly would have a lot of more flexibility and options available to you. Your current software, for what it does, is only about $10,000 the whole year. So you can imagine what $10,000 is getting you compared to what a more robust software would.
And like I said, I'm in the same boat, and they are not, one of them knew that the other one had talked to me about it. There are probably 4 department heads that are so excited about this program that they really are willing to give most anything to get it. But not only is it good for them and us, it is good for the customer, for the resident, for anyone who wanted to build and have services or of any kind in our community. And as someone told me this afternoon, it brings us out of the 19th century into the 21st century. So, at least into the 21st. I know we need to be in the 22nd, but 21st would be a good place to start. So you want to hold that till we get to IT? Everybody, can everybody hold that? I think we need to hold it till we get to the whole budget. Okay, Mr. Bloom, do you have anything else to add under the customer service billing area?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from Ms. Selena before we move? Okay, so this time, who's next
If you all will turn to page 39, we're going to address Streets and Parks Division. Mr. Paul Lord.
39.
I believe it's 39. Yes, ma'am.
So that's in the general fund?
Yeah.
Got it. Hello, Mr. Lord, go for it.
Hi, I'm Paul Lord. I am a Streets and Parks Supervisor. I've been employed altogether about 11 years for the city. Last year, the line item changes for Streets and Parks were intended to increase the staffing level while upgrading old equipment. We have, in my opinion, done this pretty effectively. Just a few accomplishments from this past year are the following. Epperson Pond cleanup, electric fleet charging station, Heritage Park Pavilion rehab, Cornelius Williams parking addition plus safety compliance, police station building maintenance, downtown arcade demolition, Passive Park and Old Coke Factory demolition, which we saved the CRA a bunch of money on that one, doing it ourselves. Independence Day Parade event enhancements, 266 of city lawn maintenance, new in-road construction for the sewer plant, Public Works barn, offices, and so much more. This year, you will notice we have made a few cuts. There are also a couple of areas where we have asked for an increase. One of the main increases is the line items listed as street repair. This is because one of our main focuses for this coming fiscal year will be roads and street sign update and repair. Now that our department was able to get a few key pieces of equipment and the additional personnel, it is our goal to lean in on the pothole repair and beautification of our signage across the city. Thank you for your time and support and all that Streets and Parks does. We hope you will continue that support, and I am here to answer any specific questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On page 39, Streets and Parks, does anybody have any specific questions for Mr. Lord? Thank you for explaining that increase in the street repairs, and everybody knows we need that. Sometimes it's easier to repair them before they completely fall apart than have to rehab the whole road, which is unfortunately what we've done sometimes. Does Mr. Bloom, do you have anything to add on Streets and Parks?
No, just, again, most of what you're seeing with a lot of this is about materials and supplies, needing to go up. And unfortunately, between that and fuel, it's becomes a common theme as you look through a lot of these departments.
Okay, thank you. I do see that in fuel as well. All right. Anything in, and who's doing recreation? Does that include parks?
Yes.
Does that include parks? Got it. Any questions in the recreation area on top of page 40, which is also included by the reported gate? Okay. And the library pretty much does its own thing. Any other? Yes, sir, Mr. Fuller. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead and say it. Because I have it written down too. We'll see if it's the same thing.
Push the button, Mr. Lord.
I was going to ask, and I guess you have it on your mind, is that there was a request by Mr. Johnson to put something in for parks, and that's just because we have nothing to work with, even as volunteers, if we want to make some simple improvements out there. And
right.
I'll tell you that, and you all know that I have bought materials for for Cornelius Williams Park myself, and actually delivered it myself, the mulch and whatever. And that's something that if we had a little money, it would help us as volunteers to be able to do a few things for the parks.
Okay. We did hear that. That is exactly what I had on my mind. We did hear that request from Mr. Johnson last night to at least consider an amount of money. He suggested $1,000 per park. and even if we started with 500, 1,000 or $500, whatever, something, as Mr. Fuller says, and Mr. Johnson suggested last night, to designate for each park as an improvement, not just a cleanup or something like that, but some particular item that's in that particular park. And I know that's adding to the budget, Mr. Bloom, and we probably don't have it, but let's at least consider it at this time.
Or find it somewhere.
Or find it, yep. Maybe it's left over from this year that we can move it forward into an area that we need it to be. How does everybody feel about that? And what number would you consider?
I think the $1,000 a part, that's.
If we can find 1,000, I say do 1,000. If we can't find 1,000, we back it down.
Yeah, I can actually, as I said last night, I can think of every single one of those parks and they need at least that.
Right.
For example, I can think of, all of them, they just all need something. More than that even, but if we could have even that, it would help.
Start off with 1,000.
Mr. Bloom, are we making it harder?
Ms. Jones, if I may.
Yes, please.
We really wanted to have master plans for all of your parks done by this budget, and it didn't happen. We got a little busy with other things. But by next year, we definitely will have master plans. If you could allot a small amount to each park, next year we can definitely give you a much more specific picture of things that we're looking for the next 5 years. So that you can allot maybe 2,000 to one, 700 to another, and we can do it a lot more specifically next year for you.
So if we do.
So you're saying a lump sum of maybe $7,000 and it could be used where it was needed the most?
Yes, ma'am.
You like that idea, or you like 1,000 a park?
I like 1,000 a park because one park.
I like 1,000 a park to start with for year one, and then bring that to us next year,
Yes.
and we'll divide everything out. Once we got it planned
See,
out.
what
then we
is
can-
definitely needed, $1,000 will help each park, and each park.
You'll spend it fast.
Mr. Bloom, what line item would you suggest we put that money in?
So I think the best thing to do would be just to create something that says park improvements.
Terrific.
Right in there under the, in that particular department. And then we can put an amount there, 1,000 per park, and then see what the whole budget looks like, the next version. And then maybe it needs to go up, maybe it'll need to go down a little bit, but that will at least put a line item in there and start that process.
All right, we do have 7 parks, so that's the dollar amount we're looking for.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. All right, so anything else for this area before we move? I'm afraid we added instead of cut, but there you go. Mr. Cox.
You're gonna talk about special events?
Yes, unless there's somebody back there, I don't know what their lineup is. Is the utility department through with their reports?
No, ma'am.
No, let's let them finish first.
Okay.
We're thinking,
Well,
yes, we will do that.
Since you were there past the library.
Who's next and what page do we go to?
So the next one is going to be page 59. We're going to move on to gas.
Okay.
And 59 and 60 actually
Yes.
is the gas. One interesting caveat is we want to thank the council for the new gas ordinance. Other than Country Lane Estates, everything that's going to be brought into town is going to have to be developer funded, and we're going to take that required investment off the backs of the citizens that have lived here and invested their families and their lives here. So we're happy about that. We've updated those ordinances, and we designed that not to be based, as far as our rate increase, on a consumable cost, because gas is, kind of seasonal. And if y'all remember when we presented that, it was more of the fixed cost of the meter set. And we made a very minor adjustment. We're still probably one of the lowest in the state as far as a gas, provided meter service. But what we did on that budget was we raised approximately $100,000 in revenue. And so I know that was a big help to our finance director. He had a very good projection of what change there would be in the budget this year on that. To point out some specific line items, one of the things that you'll notice is that we have an advertising and promotional budget that we lowered slightly because we had a lot of materials last year that we were able to get from that, and we were able to get our developer agreement with FGU created, which we're also implementing with Country Lane Estates right now. And then further on, after that, you'll see on page 60 the marketing and rebate program. And why that's important is that's something that we implemented at last year, just a slight amount. I think it was $15,000, and we've increased it. That's going to be as homes convert or new neighborhoods come in, and the purchaser of the home comes in and says, well, gas appliances are more money. What that program will allow us to do is basically, depending on the appliance, whether it's a stove, a range, whether it's a hot water heater, whether it's a furnace, they calculate the difference between the cost of that brand new item from gas to electric, and the difference is the rebate that the city pays the customer to invest in our gas system and diversify what type of utilities they use. Short term, yes, we are giving some money back to the customer, but long term, that's an additional revenue source that we have coming in monthly. And furthermore, it's almost kind of a readiness program as far as the town's concerned, because when a disaster happens, the gas doesn't stop. And so if you have a generator, a whole house generator, or you at least have your range and your stove, or your oven, excuse me, you at least can continue life a little bit, maybe even have a hot shower here and there if you have a gas hot water heater. So these are just investments really in building the gas back up as a business, as opposed to, oh yeah, Williston has gas. Did you know that? So that's kind of been the focus in the last 15 months, and that's moving in that direction. We had a lot of other cuts where we reduced budget. I did want to point out, not just with the gas, but through all public works, every line item for uniforms that you all raised last year, we reduced lower than the levels that were the year previous to that. Because, as you've noticed, we've gotten all the uniforms. We implemented that program for every department other than electric, who has to have a specific kind. And we removed the names. We realized in the past that that's been a mistake. So we've just had an employee leave, moving to New Jersey, and was able to turn in those uniforms, and we got to hire a guy exactly that same size, but we don't have to buy uniforms again. So, these are some of the cost-saving measures we tried to do. And really the money that's there now for the uniforms is just, to kind of keep up our stock and make sure that uniforms are replaced when they're damaged. So if you have any questions on gas, there wasn't a lot of changes. Of course, gas purchasing is a lot higher, but I want to point out that electric and gas, the fuel costs have gone from this time last year at around $3 a cubic foot to over $9. And this next month, we're projected to be at $9.39. That is just the cost of natural gas, and that's also what provides us our power and our fuel cost adjustment. So you're going to see an increase in that. Don't let that scare you, because as Stephen would tell you, although it's costing us, that cost goes directly back to the customer. It's a fuel cost. It's not anything we make money on, but it's something we have to pass on. So if you have any other questions, we'd be glad to answer them about gas.
You pass it on, and they are not liking it.
No,
And I don't like them a bit. I don't like it either. All right. Any questions on gas service? Mr. Bloom, do you have anything to add on gas service?
Just wanted to reiterate what Donald says about this. The gas pricing will be changing with the new rates. And like electric, gas will also pass along the full cost of what it costs the city to purchase gas. That is a little bit different, and we'll have some more discussions on it, but that's what's built into your budget.
I also wanted to add to that we can help the customers this year on gas, and we're going to be presenting to the council sort of rate stabilization program this year. FGU is helping us get a presentation together now. Because it's seasonal, instead of someone, let's say, having a gas bill of $22 in the summer months and having a $90 gas bill in the winter months, we can find a happy medium, an average, and we can basically make it to where they can predict pretty much the same cost every month, and the city in the low months will put that money into an escrow account, And as the prices go up, instead of the customer's bill increasing, we would simply use the money that was set aside to pay for the increase in fuel and to pay for the increase in usage and consumption. And I think for our low income and the ones that are on a fixed income, this would be a huge help. Lake City has implemented this. The citizens have loved it. They can predict their bill a little bit better, and it's one of the tools that we really want to focus on for customer service.
We used to do that, I think, with our electric many years ago.
Electric, the thing on electric is there's usually a true-up, what they call a true-up at the end of the year. And the way the gas program would be designed is there would be none.
Okay.
Literally none. There would be no extra bill at the end of the year that says, hey, we figured it out, here's the math, you owe this little bit at the end. And it also wouldn't put the city in a place where Stephen has to figure out how do we pay rebates because we overcharged. So we'll be presenting that program to you, but keep in mind that's one of the things we're working on to stabilize those rates for customers who really have to worry about pinch and pennies.
Okay. Got questions?
Yeah, so on that deal, if fuel was to go down, that money just still stays in that escrow account before that customer rolls right over into the next year, most likely?
Yes, sir.
And then I love the idea of giving incentives, trying to get more people onto that gas utility. I mean, that's we got to definitely do stuff like that.
I'd have a gas TV if I could get one.
I've got 4 or 5 gas things in my house, and it definitely makes a difference in my bill.
I think you can get one of those on Amazon.
You get everything on here. Mr. Cox got something?
Yeah, it's just a general like utilities. I know in the past you've talked to us about like the meter cans and the meters where only charging $500 some when actually the cost is $400 or $500 higher. Are we going to adjust that so we're not losing money?
Well, great news when y'all passed the rate change.
We did that. Yeah.
You changed the fee rate as well for gas. And what we do on that is it was a simple math calculation of we took exactly what the labor and materials cost for the city was, and then we added 25% for capital improvement. And that's how everything's figured out, no matter if it's a meter set, no matter if it's a line install, whatever the case may be regarding gas, it was built into not only the rate, but the fee schedule as well. And we're hoping as electric and water and sewer addressed, we do the same things with those. Water is an example right now. It's $510 for someone to put a water meter in. Our costs are $936. And that, when we figured that out 3 months ago, now that's higher. I don't have the number for that. Mr. Walls will tell you that the price of the water meter box has gone up again. But at the time we figured out it was $936, and then with a 25% capital, it was $1,200. So $1,200 is the real cost of putting in that water meter. You go over to Gainesville, you go to Newberry, you go to Bellevue, they're charging between $1,500 and $2,200 per install of water meters. So we'd still be lower, but at least we would be recouping the minimum cost that we have. And so that's type that when we're doing rates, we're also addressing those fees as well.
But the same concept though with the yard lights, we're charging $250 a yard light when it's costing us $950.
Yeah, I think.
But it's actual cost. It's not markup. It's dead cost straight across the board. It's $950.
I think we gotta look at everything that we're doing. We've at least, even if, like they said, they do it at break even, we can't do this stuff and lose money.
We can't do it and lose money.
Well, the goal is with the 25% built-in CIP, we're hoping to have the utilities create the money as we go, and we're not having the same arguments every year. What do we do for capital? So it's a plan. You gotta try something, see if it works.
Right.
Louder.
Okay.
No.
Mitch, anybody have any final questions for gas? Mr. Bloom says he's good with it. Okay.
I'm good with it.
Thank you so much. What's next? Water?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, turn the page, 61, 62. Proceed here to the water. Donald's the water guy, so he must be doing it. He's water and gas.
So I believe you'll want to look on page 62. and you'll notice a couple of changes. By the way, I wanted to mention another thing because I'm seeing here. Every line item for miscellaneous expense, which has been in every utility budget for years and years and years, we eliminated that. We're trying to get out of the habit of having secret funds hidden and being able to pull them out of pots that they weren't designed for. So if you'll notice this year, everywhere across Public Works, we eliminated miscellaneous expense as a byline. We want to be more specific and accountable as to what the money is being used for. So that obviously was taken out of water. We really lowered quite a bit on water. I don't really think we had much change. The only real change that we had is repairs to equipment, and this is really what many departments have spoken about as far as the equipment's getting older. We're not replacing our fleet as often, and so as time goes by, as things get a little bit older, they have a little bit more cost in regard to maintaining them. So other than that, on water, we made as many reductions as we could in that department. If you look at the handout that we gave, this is where we wanted to bring up AMI. And we have many other companies that we can quote to you. This is just one. Right now, it would be predicted that if we just changed out only the water meters in town, and the average water meter here in town is basically from like 95 to 99. But if we changed out every water meter, just in water loss, they're predicting that we would increase revenue by $131,000. Most residential and commercial meters have what they call a nutating disc, and it's a little plastic basket, and as the water passes through, it's kind of got little paddles on it, and it turns a magnet, and then the magnet's connected to the meter numbers above it, and it spins the numbers. Over time, as grit, grind, and age happen, those components begin to wear, not be as sharp with water hitting them at constant pressure, and you just simply lose the accuracy of the rotation. And so meters slow down over time. So this is one element of savings, and AMI will cost quite a bit of money. But the reason why we like Suez, which is actually now Olavida, they're the two largest utility companies in the world that have just merged, is that they're the only company that has said when they come in and bring in AMI and drop it into place and install it and integrate it, they will stick with it, warranty it, and maintain it for 15 years. So they're only slightly over some of the other quotes that we're getting, and we'll present this down the road to council as well more specifically. But AMI savings for electric, for gas, and for water are astronomical in the payback. On top of which, as Selena mentioned earlier, water leaks now aren't going to be found out on the customer side once a month when a meter's read and they get this massive bill. AMI immediately transmits a signal that if there's any kind of anomaly, and it tracks normal usage. So we'd even get an alert, let's say you go on vacation and 2 weeks later there's just this massive drop in water usage. It would send us an email or a note and flag it and say, hey, just make sure the meter's okay, make sure the meter's not broken. We'd go out, send a tech, make sure it's performing the way it should. On the flip side of that, we oftentimes, if it's a leak underground or under a person's house, we don't know until we check the water meter once a month, and we come back and you've used 70,000 gallons. And they're pretty upset. This reduces theft of water because it's going to tell you whether or not that water source has doubled, and maybe your neighbor stuck a garden hose on your spigot you don't know about. So these are things that in real time,
Detailing guy.
or the mobile detailing
Which
guy.
I had called twice at 2 different locations in Williston.
Yes, ma'am.
We've actually found people doing that when people go on vacation, they're full of swimming pools up.
Oh, wow.
So this is just a great program that council can consider. I believe the overall cost that we had on our last quote was about $4.4 million. I believe Stephen put that in capital. The positive of that is we think through grants and through maybe an SRF loan, we could maybe implement some of this. And remember too that this company also does in-house financing, the largest utility company in the world now. So we can make annual payments over a period of those 15 years. At the end of those 15 years, we can re-engage that contract and again be right back where we started. There is a prorated rate to the maintenance of the meters. So, for example, your first 5 years, I think, is at 100% cost on them. I think your next 5 to 10 years is at 75%, and the last 5, I believe, is at 50%. So we'll give you that proposal more in depth. As you can see, this is page 35 of that proposal, but I just wanted to give you guys a showing of what kind of savings could be involved in that. And the billing...
This is not in the current budget. It's in
It is
capital.
in
five-year
capital,
plan.
5-year plan.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And that's why we wanted to bring it up.
All right.
But this is what Selena was addressing, that this included to the Edmunds.gov. These two combined basically put us where we should be as a utility for services. And if customer service is your number one goal and making the customer the priority, these are the best investments that you can make for them. And as I said, most of it will come out revenue neutral in the long run once you make your system a lot newer. Yes, and it can be used as, for outages as well. By the way, turn on and turn offs are safer because we have remote turn on and turn off. So we don't have to physically go out to the house and cut someone's power. We can do it from the office. Vice versa, they get home at 5 and the office is already closed, and they say, why do I have to pay an after-hours charge after I've paid my bill online? No, you don't. We'll go to our screen, whoever our after-hours person is, hit a button, and your power is restored. So this is a great tool for customer service, and that's where we really want to recommend that the water and gas and power move toward.
And can you do one section at a time?
For safety, we can shut down entire sections if there was a national emergency or something of that nature.
I mean, can you do the electric and not do the water? And gas?
Absolutely. Everything is
And
independent.
then add the other one next time?
Everything is
Does
independent.
it cost more to do it piecemeal instead of all together?
We don't cut power on businesses and commercial because you actually lose money.
Sure.
So we have, in the last 15 months, we've switched that policy that when a cutoff happens for non-payment, we cut their water. We're not out to embarrass the business, especially through COVID that we've gone through, and it doesn't help the city either. We'd rather them continue to spend on that electric. But for the residential, yes, we do cut power. If you're talking about finalization of the services, let's say that they close the account, we can do them one at a time at different dates based on what the customer's asking, or we can final an account and there's no additional cost to that.
Now, what I'm saying is if you have the money to pay for one set, is it all in the same meter?
Like water meter.
Or is it separate meters? Can we do all?
Negative, it's all separate meters.
It's all separate.
Okay, so we could do the automated meter for electric.
You could do you could do each.
And then add water later.
Yes, ma'am,
And
you
then
could.
add gas later. We
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
do it all at one time.
Correct. And it wouldn't be able to be implemented all at the same time either. It's not possible. They would do have three-month increments to do a particular utility, and then they would have to move on based on what council wanted to do.
I mean, if we didn't have the money to do it all in 1 year, we could do it over a period.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions on water? Again, you can see their salaries and the individual people and the percentage of the salary that goes into this particular budget for water. Is explained the repair to equipment increase, and I think we're done.
We have sewer left.
We have sewer.
To
Mr.
save the
Lund,
best.
do you have any comment on water?
I do not.
Thank you so much.
So you'll get some more handouts here. Sewer department, if you look line item by line item, we did have some changes, quite a bit of reductions in different line items. Sewer is broken apart in two different distinct groups. One is sewer collection, which is your lift stations and your distribution lines, and then sewer treatment, which is more the plant.
All right, please say that again, Donald. I'm sorry, I was too busy playing.
No,
with
that's
papers.
okay. Sewer is broken down into two sections. It's two separate budgets. One is sewer collection, and that's basically your lift stations and your distribution lines.
Right.
And the second element is sewer treatment, and that is your plant.
Okay.
I didn't really have anything specific to point out other than training, schools, and seminars on page 63. We have had a very difficult time industry-wide in replacing wastewater operators for our plant. As a matter of fact, at a conference that I was at a few weeks ago, it was told to us that statewide, in the next 10 years, 46% of the workforce will be at retirement age that has a wastewater license, and they're not being replaced. So we have two things that we're wanting to do on that, and that's why that line item is there. We're wanting to take current employees who we see a commitment to, or a commitment from, and start to pay them to take their Sacramento classes. As a matter of fact, we also are looking into an apprenticeship program that is nationally recognized by the Department of Labor, and is run through the National Rural Water Conference. And basically, while there is an employee of ours, twice a month they go off to a site or take a class, and once they put in 4,000 hours, they receive a journeyman licensed wastewater double C.
Hours?
Well, it's 4,000 hours. Most of that's done here on site in our own plant.
That's good.
Like I said, the only outside visits are twice a month, and it's regional. But this program allows us for $1,500 per student to, in 2 years when they've completed the program, they are licensed either B wastewater or they're dual licensed C wastewater and C water. And so it's a great and fantastic program, as I said, sponsored by the Department of Labor. So that's why that is there. The second element that we're trying is to get with the superintendent of the schools and work on some sort of apprenticeship program so that as the seniors are thinking about what they want to do, there are some kids that are really smart, I think, and they say, I don't want $400,000 college debt and I want to go and be a firefighter or a police officer, or hey, I want to be a wastewater operator.
There's a young man in Bronson who just graduated. He's 18 years old, and he has his license, and he went to work for the city of Bronson.
Exactly.
Yes,
and
I
we
can tell
tried to
you
get
his
him and
name.
couldn't afford him.
Do what now?
I tried to get him and couldn't afford him.
Oh my goodness.
So exactly. So those are the two things that we want to implement.
Cameron Asbell's son.
Yes,
was
exactly.
who it was.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, ma'am. We couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
We did increase sewer analysis. If you look on page 64, under operating expenses, about halfway down, sewer analysis.
Yep.
And the reason why we increased this is two reasons. One, because the cost of our vendors is increasing. They're changing their prices because of fuel and all those things. The second reason is because we need, as part of the budget this year, to purchase a sampling fridge. They run between $11,000 and $12,000. We're trying to get most of that cost absorbed by the grant. The grant that we have going on at the plant right now is $3.75 million, and there's a large contingency for unexpected problems. We've spoke to Wharton Smith, and they're trying to make sure we have enough saved by the end project to either pay for the majority of it or a large portion of it if we don't have any oh-no's. So right now it's looking good. They're looking to be done around January, February, and we'll know more then. But we wanted to build it in. Hopefully we don't have to spend it. But we do need to get a sampling fridge. That is our requirements under DEP every week to send off those samples. We fail those samples, we get fined. That sampling fridge does it at a certain rate, at a certain time, collects a random sample, and refrigerates it in this great heat that we have here in our wonderful Sunshine State to preserve it, because if you get it above a certain temperature, the sample's no good. So that's really why that increase is severe that it is. Other than that, I want you to look at the papers, if you would, that we passed out.
Before you talk about the papers, you got to fix the air conditioner again.
It's so cold.
It just flipped back on, and everybody up here is shivering.
It's not cold in here.
My nose is actually frozen off.
All those that say it's not cold, raise your hand.
We need to flip this room. It is not cold. Everybody up here just went shiver.
It's so cold. I'm dying.
You can wear clothes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Barber.
No problem.
Start wearing shoes.
So one of our 5-year capital needs, once again, not in the budget this year, we just want to make council aware of it, is as we increase size,
That doesn't go with me.
And as we increase services, we really need to speed up our response time to breaks. This could be water breaks, this could be gas breaks, this could be sewer breaks, power poles that have snapped. Every single department in Public Works would be able to utilize. This is called a VATCON. And it's basically a giant vacuum, an industrial vacuum on a truck. And we just wanted to get you guys payments, schedules to see kind of what the cost is. This is kind of, like premier, top of the line. What we'd like to do is, Danny Wallace has been looking for the last year for surplus. There's a lot of municipalities and government agencies that give these trucks up because they get aged. And we've also found that companies like VATCON will take a truck that you already have and for a much smaller fee, like $150,000, take it down to the chassis, completely rebuild it, and give it to you basically recertified with all new equipment again. So there's a lot of options there, but we wanted to show council that this is about safety, this is about response time, this is about massive water loss, this is about outages and then the length of time to, especially poles. 811 tickets. That's a whole caveat of unless you can prove that it's an emergency, damage to life or property, you have to wait 3 days to respond to some of these events. And the reason for that is because you're sticking a piece of equipment in the ground blindly and you could possibly do even more damage. This vacuum and a little bit of water prevents you from having to call in those tickets because it doesn't disturb the ground. It basically just sucks pieces of it up, exposes the problem, and you fix it. So response times are very big in regards to this piece of equipment. And as I mentioned, we just wanted to let you know about it so that in the next 5 years, as we beg for it year to year.
We just need a smaller one and an older one.
Maybe we need a smaller one and an older one, yes ma'am.
Yeah,
But they do run,
Danny needs to look for something
they do actually have a version that's on a trailer.
A smaller version.
Absolutely. Of course, keep in mind that it's not the power of the vacuum, it's actually the capacity of the tank.
Okay.
The biggest issue with the trucks versus the trailers is that if you have a sewer spill, you want to be able to, while they're having a problem, keep that sewage out of the public's purview.
Right.
And these tanks fill up really quick if you have a blockage. So that's really the only difference between the two. But trailers still can run anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000 just for the trailer. So it's not an inexpensive item. And then you have to have a truck large enough to pull it. So, anyways.
Okay, not in this year's budget.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Bloom, do you have any comments on the sewer services plant or collection?
I do not.
Anybody on this council have any questions?
Madam President,
Yes, sir, flip of the page.
since it's 7 o'clock, can we take a
Yes, we
15-minute
can
break?
take a break and we can turn the air conditioner up again. All right, we're going to recess. It is 7 o'clock. Please join us next door. We will, how about 7:20?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Go that way, we're gonna have a break.
Go that way.